We'll start the Monday, March 12th Select Board meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. What do we have for manifests?
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable manifest of March 12th, 2018, and the payroll manifest of March 13th, 2018.
Let's second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain because I didn't look at them.
Okay, that's fine. So were you abstaining too?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3-4, two abstain.
Oh, I only signed one of them. There we go.
What do you get going there? Chai or something?
Lemon ginger.
Oh. I can smell it.
Pretty much every night after dinner. I do like chai though. All right. Hey, Bonnie. I think we're all caught up on minutes, right, as far as what we've got here is the last that's outstanding. All right, I'll take a motion on minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from 2/26/18 as amended in the non-public minutes from 2/26/18 as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Excellent.
Tyler's abstained.
All set here? All set here?
Yeah, that's all set. Sorry about that. All right. Boards. Nothing on budget committee,
On
right?
budget.
Nothing on planning.
Nothing on planning. Nothing on,
Nothing. No.
all right, that was easy,
At the 300 committees meeting on the 29th,
okay,
but nothing more than what I mentioned last week,
okay.
last meeting.
All right, let's move on to, business report then.
Everything that I've got will probably come up later in some other context. The only thing out of the ordinary is that the solar installation's underway at the fire station. You may have noticed trucks on your way by, but so far so good there. They've lost a couple days because of weather. I suspect they'll finish there early next week and then come here.
Okay, good,
So far so good.
good.
Yeah.
And town reports are in.
Town reports are in. They'll be available at the polls tomorrow. They're available at the town office and in the lobby here.
Post office.
Kate is there at the library. They're at Liars.
Post office.
Both post offices. I think that's the.
Awesome. All right, Bonnie, you ready? I'm ready. All right, come on down.
That's for you guys.
Make 'em.
Yeah.
How you doing?
All right.
Good.
So, as Chris knows, my computer died this morning. Did you bring that letter that I sent you, perhaps, where I said, to kind of recap what we were gonna go over tonight?
I did not.
Remember it?
Although I sent the board most of our communications,
Perfect. Perfect.
it was one long string that they all got.
Fabulous.
Like 5 pages. I printed them.
I'm verbose, what can I say? I don't meet with you very often.
Yeah, I don't usually, but
So I don't remember what I said about, in my communications, I know we discussed it, about the presence of a quorum at all elections. So I told Chris that I would talk with someone in the Attorney General's office, because it does come up every year, and I'm not like pounding on you, I'm just doing my job. And the Attorney General agreed with what I've been telling you, that there is an RSA 66925 that mandates that town elections be conducted in the same manner as state elections. And it is their opinion that the Constitution requires a quorum. So I have written up a statement about that, which I would like entered into the minutes. And I have a copy for all of you, so that you know that it's my duty to tell you what your responsibilities are. Just recap my conversation with Matthew Broadhead, who he's the head of the election division now, but he's the candidate.
If you want it in the minutes, you probably ought to send me one, or one of these folks will hand me one.
Because Attorney Broadhead asked me if you take minutes. So that's probably the hardest thing that I have to talk to you about. The second thing is presence at the, does anybody have any questions about that, first of all?
No, and I read what the most recent election laws are from the Secretary of State, the manual, whatever.
Yeah, well, I think they agree with the Attorney General. Anyway, if you don't have any questions, I'll move on to the next issue, which was, are the selectmen required to be at the test of the vote count machine? And the answer is no. You're not mentioned in that law at all, except as recipients of my discovery, if there is such a discovery, that the machine has been tampered with. Then I have to report to you and a bunch of other people. So actually, the only people that are mentioned in the law is the clerk. The moderator doesn't even have to be there. But I have suggested to Dave Scanlon that they rewrite the procedure and make the moderator be there, because it's really important. It's really the way that, in my case, I've learned more about the machine, how it works. And because I do conduct the test with Sandra, I have a lot of confidence in it.
Yep.
You know, one of the things they're working on is public confidence in the elections, which they mentioned at our election worker training a couple of weeks ago, that the public confidence in elections is somewhere in the 30-something%, about right around that of President Trump, and they're trying to bring it up. And so because I do conduct the test, I really do have a lot of confidence that that machine is accurate. I've never seen it be wrong, actually. If the card tests out to our hand count, which it usually does, and if it doesn't, we get a new one. So you are now excused from that. And I suggested to Sandra, I have talked to her about it, that we use inspectors as the rest of the crew. It's not something she can do alone. She needs a minimum of 2 witnesses every time she does anything to that machine. They have to sign in a logbook. She has to sign, and 2 people have to witness what she does. So there's 3 people. The moderator really should participate, and I will always be there as long as I'm moderator, even though the law doesn't require it. It only requires me to make sure on election morning that there's evidence that it has been tested. In other words, the entries in the book. But that doesn't really give me a familiarity with the machine. And so we are probably going to switch to having the 2 clerks, the moderator, maybe whatever inspector is working as an assistant moderator, and a couple of inspectors of the elections, because they are the people who, at the end of the day, actually work on the ballots. The selectmen do too, but the supervisors, for example, don't.
So that would be, so that would be additional paid time.
It would be. I don't know if the supervisors charge you for it anyway, because they've pretty much been picking up the slack the last few years. I don't really know what hours they submit and what they don't.
I don't know what your nodding head means, Steve.
Yes, we will. Yes, we put it for our hours.
Okay,
There.
okay.
So it really is a wash. Actually, the inspectors get paid like 50 cents less than the supervisors,
Okay,
so it's a little bit of a little cheaper.
okay.
And the clerks, I don't know how you pay them for that. I know that I just get my stipend, but I don't think it'll be much of a significant difference. But to me, it seemed a better solution than, we're not counting on people that aren't required to be there. I know you guys have a lot to do. So the other topics, refresh my memory, Chris. Email chains that I sent you in the last 7 or 8 days.
Well, is there anything about tomorrow that you want to talk about publicly?
Yes.
Okay.
So it seems that the state, at every level, Attorney General, Secretary of State, and Governor are kind of in lockstep about not ever postponing an election, no matter what's happening. So one of the things that I became aware of last year is that Route 152 is not very well plowed by the state. So that was one thing I was going to ask probably Chris tonight to do, is to call the highway department in the morning and ask them to put more plows on it.
On 152?
Yeah,
Why not call the state?
I said the state, didn't I?
Oh, I thought you said the highway department.
Oh, the state highway department.
Oh, all right.
That's what I meant, sorry. Not our highway department. So, I actually left a message on the governor's citizen hotline tonight, asking him to make sure we have extra plowing, because Gunner told me that last year, the plows, by the time they got through one, swiping it down one side, the other side would have 8 inches on it. So there's always like 8 inches on the highway, and it's suicidal to drive in that.
Yep.
So that would be, one of my concerns is the safety of our citizens and our election workers. So I don't know if that will have any impact, but I've heard other moderators were doing it as well, calling the state highway department and asking for more, either more trucks or more time on that road, which is the road our poles are on. Other than that, were there any other things, Chris?
Scrolling through, anything for Saturday, you feel like you?
Before we go off
Okay.
off that topic, if I could just, so Bonnie, obviously, this was a big issue last year. There's been a lot of discussion about it again this year.
The weather, you mean?
Yeah, yeah. What's the Secretary of State's logic for not being able to cancel the day where we vote by ballot?
Obviously, I'm not the best friend of the Secretary of State.
Well, I
I
mean-
mean, I'm not at odds with him, but I don't have much contact with him. I do talk with Dave Scanlon a lot.
Yeah,
And Dave is, does what he's told,
yep,
obviously.
yeah,
But this is my personal guess,
Yeah.
is that, we are the first in the nation primary. We have a lot of clout in national politics, and because of that, Bill has a lot of clout, Secretary Gardner, excuse me.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
mean to be disrespectful. And I don't know if, in the history of New Hampshire, how many times the Tuesday town elections have ever been hit by such storms as we had last year. Do you ever remember, Charlie, all the years you were town
No,
administrator?
last one I remember is a budget committee hearing got postponed, but not voting day.
Right, so
recall
the truth of the matter is, last year, until probably Friday before the election, or maybe even Saturday, the Secretary of State's office was telling moderators, they told me, be guided by RSA 40:4,
Yep.
Roman numeral 2.
Yep.
That's the one that gives you the authority. And they also added, we don't have much to do with town elections, okay? Suddenly on Sunday, Bill Gardner had that op-ed in the Union Leader in which he came out against postponing elections and caused really a lot of confusion that really I think was unnecessary. Because once you put that in process, it's not something you can change in an afternoon.
yeah,
And then on Monday, we were promised a conference call with the governor, the Secretary of State, and the Attorney General. And so we went on that conference call. It was in the morning around 10. The governor wasn't there, and neither was the Secretary of State. And the AG wasn't there, and neither was the Secretary of State, just the governor. And, he was a new governor. He hadn't been in office very long. And he mostly addressed the public works people who were, interestingly enough, also on that call. all over the state. And at the end of the call, he knew we were there, he said, and you election people come back at 1:30 or something like that. And at that time, we'll have the Attorney General and the Secretary of State addressing your concerns and talk about postponing elections. So we went back and they weren't there again. So by then we were realizing the Attorney General and the Secretary of State were at odds over the issue. And why did Secretary Gardner suddenly decide on Sunday that he didn't want anyone to postpone elections? I don't know.
So that was what I'm trying to understand, is like, how would he answer the statement, or how would he complete the statement? We cannot move town election day because,
Okay, here's his rationale, and it's a legal rationale,
okay,
that the statute 40:4 Roman numeral 2 gives moderators authority only to move the date of the meeting portion of the
Sure.
meeting, not the election portion.
yep.
But most municipal attorneys don't agree with him. They're laughing at him at NHMA.
yeah,
And they actually put out this week a summary of the pending legislation, including this one, because there's a bill that's passed in the Senate that needs to go to the House.
yeah,
It takes authority away from moderators and gives it to the Secretary of State.
yep,
And they go through the history of when that law was passed, 40:4 Roman numeral 2. And in the notes, it's clear, originally, it was not clear that moderators had the authority to postpone the voting day, but they changed the language before they voted on the law to make it very clear. I mean, to attorneys, it's very clear we had the authority.
yep,
But
yeah.
I can understand why Secretary Gardner doesn't want us to have it in some ways, because of school districts that lie in multiple towns, and what if there are bond issues, and
Yep,
I'm
yep.
sure there are ways they can tweak the law without moving the authority.
That's, you know, where, what I'm struggling with is, like, so I can understand, you know, being reluctant to, you know, give local municipalities complete control, right? But in a situation like this, when you're looking at tomorrow, when schools are all closed, businesses are closing, no doubt the governor's gonna be on the TV tomorrow morning, saying stay home, right?
No doubt.
Why can't
But he's not gonna declare a state of emergency, is my guess.
and so why in this situation can't the Secretary of State come out and say, okay, I'm moving election day. It's not the local control, it's me, I'm doing it, and we're doing it.
But he is, I sent an email to Dave Scanlon yesterday. He didn't answer it this morning. When Dave doesn't want to talk about something, he kind of ignores it.
Yep,
I know how he works. And I'm not really criticizing him. There's really nothing he can tell me
Sure.
is what that means. And I did speak with someone else in the Secretary of State's office who downplayed the storm. I mean, that's their mantra today. It's not gonna be that bad. The snow is gonna be over a long period of time. Like, they're all in the same,
State of
all got
denial.
the same talking points.
so I saw in that email that you sent that, I think you made a suggestion that people, reach out to our state senators to comment on
Reps,
the reps, I'm sorry, the reps, to
it's
comment on
already
the
passed the
bill.
Senate.
Yeah. Is there anything else that any other action that you would recommend that we as a board take?
I think taking action as a board would be more powerful than as individuals.
Yep,
I would also reach out to Senator Reagan, because I have talked to him about the situation. And he was feeling angry. He didn't tell me exactly why, but he told me that leadership lied to them
okay,
over this bill, and that he was going to work in the House against it.
okay,
So he might feel more confident if he felt like you people were backing him up.
okay.
So maybe reach out to him too, but otherwise, I don't know what you can do. If that law passes, that's gonna be it.
Okay,
Well, till maybe they pass another one.
right, right,
But that's the climate right now. The current Attorney General agrees with this strategy, and obviously the Secretary of State does,
okay.
and I think the Governor does too. He picked the Attorney General.
I think it's ludicrous.
Yeah,
As,
it's
speaking as an individual, not on behalf of the
Well, look
board,
at
I
just-
believe it's ludicrous.
Just last year, I had a discussion with Chris Reagan, who's the moderator in Durham. And Chris said, you made the right decision for your town. In my town, we held the election. We have a very big public works department. we can keep our roads open, and we have sidewalks, people can walk to our poles. That's
Yep.
not the case in a town like this.
Exactly,
We have a small public works department, we have a lot of roads.
exactly. We're very geographically
And so,
dispersed.
how the Secretary of State can make a decision that's, you know, the best decision for every community when he doesn't know the circumstances of each community or time to consider them, it's, to me, ludicrous. What can I say?
Does anybody else have any comments or questions on that particular part of the issue, discussion?
Yeah, I think it's ludicrous too. I mean, it feels like a power grab to me, but what I can't wrap my head around is the rationale behind it.
Right.
You know, there was no logic in what happened last year, none whatsoever, you know, in my opinion. And why this year to take it that extra step to write legislation to take that power away from communities? Right? And what are they gonna do with that power? I mean, all the power of that decision is being concentrated in one individual who, like you said, doesn't know the circumstances of each community.
Right,
You
there's
know,
no way he can.
what if there's like a forest fire in some town that blocks everybody from getting to their town hall, and they haven't seen the news yet, and they don't think it's a big deal. They say, keep your poles open. You know what I mean? While the town is burning down. I mean, that's a scenario that's plausible.
Or the
under-
nuke is melting down.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's a power grab, but I don't know if it's, I don't know, I can only speculate as the motives, whether it's ego or voter suppression or God knows what. I don't know, but it just seems something's wrong.
When
This.
his very office is telling people, we don't have anything to do with town elections, one day, and then the next day, he's coming out in public saying, you can't. You don't have authority. That's what he said last year.
One thing that my husband told me he heard on the radio this morning was an in-depth discussion about this, and one of the arguments against local control was that you could have, a very,
Crazy moderator.
yeah, exactly, and somebody who could not like, the way that the vote was gonna go on something and try to delay voting that would be in favor of
Right.
whatever that
But
position.
what are the odds of that?
Yeah, and okay, sure, so, but then give the Secretary of State the power to be able to move it, rather than just say, we're not moving it ever.
I have to say, I did read the proposed law, and there are parts of it that I think are an improvement. For example, it covers more than just weather. Because I think, what if the nuke melts down? Is there any provision for elections to be, there wasn't before, it was only weather. A moderator's authority was only for adverse weather conditions, not other, public safety issues, which there could be other issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they do cover some other aspects of it, but I think, again, it could be locally decided, and I personally know that the town people, the town administration, and the safety chiefs know more than he does.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of silly. And the law also provides, by the way, that for the moderator must meet with the select board and the safety chiefs, and doesn't have, and, excuses it from public notice because it's an emergency.
Yeah,
And that would cover a crazy moderator.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
crazier than me.
All right, so we're all set for tomorrow as far as setup and everything.
Yeah, I think we're good.
We're good.
You're
We
good,
might have
we're
people
good.
sleeping here overnight.
Hey.
Some people have asked me, and I've sent Karen Noel, who kind of manages the scheduling of people at this point in time, a message saying, please tell anybody if they want to bring their sleeping bag. Because people are worried about getting up their own driveways at 9 o'clock at night after the storm's been going all day.
Yep.
And then where are they going to park? They're going to be in the way of the town plow, like that.
Yeah.
So Chris has opened up a little pajama party for us.
Are you prepared to appoint pro tem individuals? Can you appoint a pro tem
selectmen?
select person?
Let me tell you my feeling on that. I did discuss that with the Attorney General, and I wrote it a little bit in that letter. Yes, I am authorized by the law to be able to do it, but I'm not required to. And I have to say that the other pro tems that I have to pick for myself, and it's kind of, I'm out of chits with my friends. So you all have your own circle of friends, and it really would be a lot easier if you did it for yourself. I don't know whether you can come or not. You never tell me. You just, in the past, have not been there.
Yeah.
So, and actually, if you are there, then we can count on you as part of the crew, even if you think the chores that I give you are sort of beneath your station.
The other question was, does it take a quorum of the board to appoint somebody pro tem select person?
No, I think the law is clear, Charlie.
Any member could,
You can appoint, you can each appoint your own. They just can't be an incompatible person, like you can appoint Gunner, probably, to be a selectman.
right.
I don't think the police, those incompatible offices. And they must be a registered voter of Nottingham, so you can't get somebody from Northwood. And you can appoint your own.
I mean, I filled in the past as the moderator. Tom Sweeney one time,
When you were selectman or town administrator,
administrator.
that's okay. And you lived in town, that's okay.
Yeah.
As a selectman, you can't.
Yeah, okay.
There's a whole statute about who can't be two things. But you can all appoint your own. You can be your wife, your mother, as long as they live in town and are registered voters.
What about, I think I brought this issue up before too, it's someone running for office, working in the polls.
Probably not.
Here's the
From what
law
I
on
know,
that.
that's not supposed to happen.
I know the law, I deal with it all the time. So if you are an election officer, you may not handle marked ballots. So you can have some other kind of job, like taking pictures, doing affidavits. Like Sandra's up for re-election this year, and she's a big part of the counting the ballots at night normally, but this year she won't be allowed to. Lori will have to take over. And when, the only person who is not impeded when they're running is the moderator. Like when I'm up for re-election, but I can still handle the ballots. What the logic of that is, I don't know, but that's the law.
So I would also suggest, Tyler, that you go with your comfort level. Last year when I was running, I wasn't completely comfortable working and being involved in counting and stuff like that, because I don't think it's right, but it's.
Well, you can't count.
No, right, yeah. But even like being
You
part of
can't
the-
touch the marked ballots, which means you can't get in the
can't-
machine and unjam it, you can't,
Can you be inside the ropes even?
not when we're, not, you can until the close of the polls.
Okay.
After the close of the polls, when we're counting the ballots, you have to be outside the chains.
Okay. Well, I would suggest that you do what you're comfortable with.
If you want to appoint somebody, that's, that's perfectly fine, for any reason, you don't even need a reason.
How are we gonna, the outside, how are we gonna square that off and with the weather and trying to keep the plow trucks plowing where the people stand? Quite a few people, but there may be.
Probably not gonna have much of a crowd out there.
Chris and I have agreed, I'm not corralling off, because that'll be in the cloud. Talk to people if anybody's crazy enough to control the sign, and tell them where to stand, and observe the law. Is anybody out there once in a while? Go out a lot during the day. It's who's responsible? Me. So that's one of the things my assistant moderator did. I doubt we'll have a big crowd tomorrow.
Sure, they're not frozen to the ground.
No, exactly. Okay, Chris, you're gonna go on to Saturday.
Just trying to.
Yeah, I mean, you can come back to scheduling yourselves for tomorrow, but while we have Bonnie, is there anything you need for Saturday that you don't have already?
I'd like to
Anything you want
have,
to talk through with the board about?
well, I just want to make sure you all are square about who presents, who makes the motion, who presents, who seconds.
Yep, we did all
And
that.
that you
Does
are
she have
all,
Not your notes, but she has the,
Or this,
she has,
she's going to get another one.
yeah, that'd be-
That's good.
Yeah, yep, we've done all that.
So, is this it? You have your packet of materials that will include the following. So this has, who's, yeah, I see it, okay. And then, of course, there's 40:10, which I'm not really supposed to suggest. So,
yeah.
restrict your consideration.
Yep.
You guys are usually pretty.
You might not remember from last year.
Ouch. I'll get that knife off. I'm not stuck in this notice.
Bonnie, do you have, who's gonna sing the national anthem? Are we gonna be as fortunate as we were last year, or?
Well, keep that stuff a secret, you know.
Oh, okay.
But I will tell you, I have a talent scout, a citizen who has a lot of kids, and they're very first choice was she found another. Having some Boy Scouts lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Boys this year. And I'm not gonna tell you her name, the singer. Well, I remember, I saw tears in Jean Reed's eyes last year. She didn't want to get married.
She's
Off in college now. Not her around. So yes, I have a couple of surprises. Oh, I wanted to also discuss or ask whether you are He was very active in a lot of different things in town. As a board, do something, like read some little memorial to Gail. I'd be very willing to do it. Write something.
Yeah, I think it's your meeting, you know, if you want to do it, and I would feel compelled to.
Arlene would help me on it. I know you were a friend of hers. She was just involved in a lot of different groups and brought a lot of different disparate groups together.
Yep.
She's that kind of person. I don't know if we have anything else that should be mentioned, spoken of. Easy year. Of course, it was an easy year this year for the election crew, so out back in the woods, I haven't heard much. Stayed home.
All right, anything else?
Terrific. So, you all are also invited to bring your sleeping bag if you think you're going to be stuck at the end of the election.
Let's hope that it's not as bad as they're saying.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
That's
The trouble is that what they're saying has gotten worse as the weekend and today has gone. It's easy.
all right. Thanks for coming in, Bonnie.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll skip D for now and move on to PLA, since it looks like they're all here and it's 5 past.
All right, will we at some point in time gonna decide who's working when?
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Let's just do this since they're all here. Okay? Come on down.
Hi.
Give your name for the record, please.
John Decker, PIA president. I guess there was some questions regarding the petition warrant article that was submitted. And we're here to answer them, and I guess I can explain why we did a petition warrant article where in the past previous 2 years, the Lake Host program was supposed to be funded through the Invasive Species Trust.
More than 2. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No,
I take it back.
just
Go
2.
ahead. Yeah.
So it came down to last year when funds were requested. There was some timing issues with town administrator being on vacation and things like that, and the meeting getting canceled, and by the time that the request actually got to the board, there was some questions whether the PLA needed it, and we were like late with payroll twice because we had to deficit spend through New Hampshire Lakes. And so they funded a $2,000 emergency payment or whatever, basically. And then we came back to the board and the board then voted to send the other $2,000, which for some reason is not showing up in the PLA's New Hampshire Lakes account, so I don't know if it was ever paid or not.
From last year?
Yep,
I have no reason to believe it wasn't, but
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
so,
it's the first we've heard of it.
Betsy could,
Yeah, we can track that down.
Betsy
yeah.
can track that.
but anyway, to go back to simplify things, we decided as a PLA to request as a warrant article the way that we used to do it when you ran the program, Donna. So, that's why we did that, and I didn't, if you guys had questions, I figured that you would have asked them.
There was nobody here to ask.
Okay, well, that doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you can't ask questions or whatever, or,
Well,
but,
Well, anyway, I mean, I think I'm speaking for the board. We didn't know why or where this was coming from. We see it as duplicative. I think last year was just an odd, bad timing. We did have some questions. We felt we had a right to ask questions. And
yeah, of course you do.
I would expect that that wouldn't be an issue this year. So that's kind of, we see this additional request as duplicative, that the money would be coming out of the other fund. And, you know, just didn't see the need for the separate one.
Okay. So, well, we've also asked for more money this year than has been the commitment in the past because of,
I thought it was the same.
no,
Yeah, it's 48, isn't that what it's been in the past?
it's only been 4,000.
Didn't we go up? I thought we went up.
I got the records from New Hampshire Lakes today on what the last couple of years
Okay.
has been, and it's been 4,000 that's been sent in.
Okay.
Except for last year.
Well, they're only recording.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't tell us that
Right.
before.
Well,
No, I
and-
think
and
you're
we-
2,000
and-
short.
Okay, but we only really just found out based on, it's not easy to get the information on New Hampshire Lakes. As because the funding comes through you guys. When we send the money from PLIA, our portions,
Yeah.
we get a notice back that says, oh, thank you for sending this. But when the town sends it, we hear nothing. So it's pretty difficult.
Well, okay. Okay.
And honestly, I only found out today, because I called Crystal, because I don't know if you remember reading the reports, when they send them, the numbers don't really jive, because the numbers that they send us are minus the 15% that they need to do for taxes and everything else, so it can be really kind of confusing. So when I called her today, and we were going through the numbers, and I'm like, there should be three $2,000 amounts, and she says, no, there's only two. And she couldn't get, by the time I called her late in the day, because I was here setting up with doing the election stuff, everybody else from the office was gone, so the bookkeeper who could have told her exactly who and when and what and everything else was already gone. So we know we need to do a little investigation to figure out, because very honestly, it could have gone there and not gotten put in the right account. So we need to kind of figure that out, and I'll track that down after election stuff is done.
It should be in the vendor report, right?
Should be.
Yep.
Okay.
But I mean, Betsy can help you clarify that easily as
But
well.
that's kind of what I was just thinking
The-
about while I was sitting there, that it should be in here someplace.
Yeah.
Yep, so then the other issue that has come up since we,
No, John, that's not an operating cost, so it may not be in there. It's coming from a trust, but it may
Okay,
not be in the vendor report.
would be in the trustees of the trust fund report?
There'll be a balance there.
there's a balance there, and the balance was lower than I expected, because it was only just over $10,000, which I would have.
2 years at 5,000 and change.
No, it was.
No,
it was
4,000
10
each.
No,
The remainder.
the amount going in was 10,000 for 2 years, right? Then if you subtract 4,000 and 4,000, that should have been a balance of
12,000.
12,000. But the balance is only showing as a little over 10,000. So I don't know if something
Well,
else.
maybe it was more than 4,000 going out, or maybe, I don't know, well, it's all fixable, whatever, you know, it's all.
So I was just trying to bring numbers together to talk to you guys, and I'm like, oh, the numbers aren't jiving to me, so.
So, and then the other issue this year is the grant through New Hampshire Lakes comes from New Hampshire DES. And the amount of grant that New Hampshire Lakes was awarded this year to disperse is greatly reduced. So the amount that's available to the Lake Coast programs has been reduced
Have
this
they
year.
given you any indication yet of what yours is likely to be?
Yes, so the grant started, it's all been submitted and everything, and now we just wait till mid-April to hear. So the maximum grant that can be awarded this year is $4,700. And then this year, and the maximum grant last year would have been $4,950. So it's down $250. But the DES is also requiring every Lake Coast program to now have a paid manager. And the paid manager, they're suggesting 2.5 hours a week at whatever, the groups decide the pay rate to be. So for us, that's $780 for the year, for the season, for the manager, which actually only allows $3,920 for ramp, for actually paying people at the ramp, which is $1,000 less than last year.
What the heck is their reasoning for that?
So the reasoning for that was they started this program last year, or at least they attempted to, where the individual programs would take the daily ramp sheets and the summaries, log on to Google Sheets, and enter their data themselves. And it didn't work. And so for whatever reason, DES, because they're trying to streamline and reduce the amount of time that is being done running the program and pushing it down to the local groups, is now requiring that every group have someone to do the data entry for all the ramp sheets and everything.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, so that's what it's requiring, is the daily ramp sheets and summaries be done every single week by a paid employee.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just trying to make sure that it gets done in a timely fashion so that they have their accountability.
Yeah, because Crystal was still working on it when the new grants were coming in, because she's trying to do every single, association in the, and program in the state by herself. So just trying to spread things out a little bit, so. So anyways, and I honestly don't think it's gonna take 2.5 hours a week. Because it's the first year, I'm the one who's gonna be doing it, so I can kind of figure out exactly how long it's gonna take.
Yeah.
And I doubt it's gonna take 2.5 hours a week. I mean, that's 5 hours of pay period.
Some of it depends on how well you can read the handwriting on the sheets.
Well, there is that, yes, yes.
Yes.
And how strong your internet connection is, because if you're trying to do a hotspot and log into Google Sheets and do it that way, it doesn't work very well. You need a dedicated line, a real, broadband line to do it, so. Anyways, so those are some of the things that are a little bit different this year. But this information has come to light since we did the warrant article. So it's not really related to the warrant article, but it is related to the fact that we need a little more money, in the past.
Well, and, right, what the amount that we decided on this year was basically, we took kind of last year's amount and said, all right, if the grant is $4,800, and if the town paid $4,800 and PLA basically pays the other third between the volunteer hours and things like that, I kind of split it 3 ways to sort of give some fairness.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's where that amount came from.
I remain not in favor of the additional petition warrant article, and you guys know how much I support the program. I'm not questioning that at all. I believe we set up that fund for the right reason, so that we could fund that program and build up, a kitty, essentially, in case that it's needed. I think you're gonna cause confusion with people about why we've got this fund and why the PLIA is asking for more money.
So, and this really came up because of last year's confusion and us deficit spending, which they told us, if we do that again this year, we will lose the grant completely. So we know that in the past, when we did the
But
warrant.
this isn't gonna solve that. I mean, the same thing
No,
could happen.
yes, wait. When we did the warrant article in the past, we always got the funds up front. So we didn't deficit spend.
That
So
was-
the problem was getting the select board to release the funds.
Which was a timing issue.
Right, we can't have that timing
It's
issue.
not gonna happen this year.
So,
How do we guarantee that?
So, what I'm hearing is, the problems you're facing, that we faced this past year, are issues of logistics and timing, communication, and possibly a little more eyeballs on the books, right? But how is asking the voters to create a second fund gonna fix that?
Well, it's not creating a second fund.
Well,
support an additional
you
warrant
have
article.
two on the ballot this year. So people are gonna look at this, and gonna say, well.
Second one's not a fund, it's just a request from.
Oh, it's just a request for money. So people are gonna look at that and they're gonna say, well, we've already got 10,000 going for that, why are they asking for another 14,800? I've already been asked by people, are they expecting to get 14,800 this year? Why do they need that much?
Well-
You've already created the confusion. It's exacerbating the problem.
well,
So, there's a couple of ways this could go. We could, ask to switch the, warrant article order, and depending on if the $4,800 warrant article passes, we could reduce the amount of the amount going into the invasive species fund. That's one way. We could also, just because we are a 501c3, we could actually put the amount into the budget and keep it in the budget as a line item in the budget. Or, you know, if we had strong enough commitment that we would get these funds from the select board, you know, to be released in a timely fashion, that we could withdraw the other warrant article.
So this is my first year on the board, so I don't know the answer to this, but is this the first year that the board has been the trustees of that fund?
When the fund was set up, we were made the trustees.
Right, so
Right,
it's,
so is this the first year that that's actually
Second.
been, it's the second?
Yeah, second,
So it's still kind of a young, relatively young setup?
yes.
yeah.
Is we pay, every 14 days, we pay accounts payable and payroll, so there shouldn't be a problem getting a check cut, but you need
Right,
a
so I
week's, you need a
request-
week's notice.
So since I took over from Donna running the program, what I have done is I have, in June, talked to Dawn, in the office about needing the funds released, and it's been taken care of. So for whatever reason this year, when I realized that there was a problem and I got the report and I'm like, okay, we're not gonna make payroll, I wonder what happened to that money. We ran a checkup and then I called Dawn and I said, you know, do you know what happened? And she said, nope, I remember having the conversation. I don't know where it went from that. Can you put it in writing and get it to me? Well, by the time that happened, then we got into August and vacations and then it got delayed into September and whatever, and the confusion started. So it was just one of those, it was a very odd situation because it had never happened. I mean, there was just never question, you know, we've put the money aside for you, you call and you request it, it gets sent up, it's there, it's
So I don't know
taken
how,
care of.
you know, with all due respect, I don't know how many times we can explain that that was just a odd situation,
And I don't
aggravated.
understand why we wouldn't require something in writing for a disbursement from that
We
fund.
do, we always have, we always have.
Not a phone call, that doesn't seem.
No, we've always requested it in writing,
I
right?
guess what really bothers me is that, that you didn't come forward during the budgetary process to talk to us, and that you did it via a petition warrant article. That really bothers me. I mean, especially from both of you, because you've been involved in the town for so long,
that's the process.
and, but you could also come to us as, instead of, and then we could have.
I did it every year, John.
We could
Every
have-
year as a courtesy,
We
I
could have
came to
had
the
the
select board and the
discussion, we
budget
could have looked
committee.
at this a little bit more, you know, instead of a petition warrant
I can
article.
honestly say that I was not aware that that was the way it was done. I've never brought anything to the budget committee before.
It's not to the budget committee. It's
Or to the
select
select,
board.
I mean,
Right.
But still,
financially. it's
By
situation.
submitting
So-
it, that brings it to the select board.
I always went to the budget committee and explained every year,
Okay.
as a courtesy, even though I knew they knew it, they supported it. And it, go ahead, sorry.
no, it's just, you guys have both been around long enough.
We have no question that the select board and the town supports this program. There's never been a question about that at all. We were trying to fix the situation of making sure that the funds were sent out and available so that we don't run the risk of losing this grant. Because if we lose this grant, it's a big problem. You know, we can't run this program without New Hampshire lakes. So, you know, we were trying to address that issue. And by having a warrant article, if it's passed by the town, and yes, it's if and when, then the funds are released when, you know, when they're requested.
That communication issue could happen either way. That was a one-time communication issue, and it could have happened whether it was the fund or the direct payout.
That's
It
true.
could have happened either way.
That's true. It
And-
just didn't,
We got
And you guys could have come and said,
two
let's talk
things here
about this.
asking for the same thing.
Yeah.
Not really.
well, and then there's the other part, that it is and it isn't. The warrant article requests the funds specifically for the PLIA, where the invasive species fund is for the entire town.
Right, and that is.
Of which there's no other need for that right now. And basically what you're saying is, we don't trust the town to make sure that we get the money. That's what that additional warrant article says.
Well,
What I read out of it is that you want this money outside of town control. A lot of people are gonna have an issue with that.
That was never the intention at all.
But that's how it reads at face value.
Well, it's in the book now, so what can we do to solve this problem?
So I agree with you that clearly the process broke down. If your funding was in jeopardy, it's clear. But that, again, that's a communication problem. You don't fix that problem by saying, let's just set aside all the infrastructure, the funding infrastructure we got in place, and let's just get our own fund. That's what it looks like. And we're better than that. We can all work together better than that. And fix the communication problem, fix the timing, fix all the logistics. Because you're right, this town does support the program. I love even taking my canoe to the boat launch, and there's somebody there checking the boat out. I still got all my stickers on it. I love it. Trust me, I love having you guys there. But this is a communication, fundamentally a leadership problem amongst all of us. And we can fix it on that same basis without, setting up extra funds and all this. We can fix this. We can.
So what do you recommend?
It's your warrant article.
That's why we're asking for a recommendation. What do you
And it's your
recommend?
program. I mean,
Right.
well, I mean, we can, we can sit down and we can brainstorm, bullet list, everything that went wrong, right? In the military, they call it an after-action review. What went right, what went wrong, what was okay but could be better. And we can chart it out on that basis. That might be a worthy working session, because I don't think we want to be here for that many hours tonight hashing out all those details, but we can fix this. We can. I think we can.
All right, so town meeting Saturday. Or whatever, sorry, the meeting piece of the town meeting. So what are your thoughts going forward? Do you think that we should pull this and let the other one be fund through the other program? I mean, the other part is, there is milfoil in the lake. Do we want to keep building that fund because we may need to?
That's what we're doing. That's why it's 10,000 every year. That's why it's 10,000. Personally, I think you should pull the warrant article.
Okay, so there's
That's my personal
so there's
opinion.
a process that has to happen. Which one is first? Because I don't have
The
the book
other
in front
one
of
is
me.
first.
So don't petition warrant articles go last? Don't they go,
Typically, yeah.
they
In
typically
this-
go
in
last
this-
after the other ones?
In this warrant, the
Stuck in the middle.
ETF comes immediately before the petition warrant article.
Yeah, so, I talked to Bonnie about this because I was rather hoping that the decision would be for us to pull the warrant article and just focus on, you know, what we've done the last couple of years and just, and get that to work and work with you and move forward with that. You can't just pull a warrant article. You have to, it still has to come up for consideration, you know, be read and everything else, discussion with it. We can then, you know, during our discussion, say, you know, we, you know, because of the previous warrant article, we're going to be able to, you know, get this to work through that other, you know, through the other one. We do not need to do this and pull it at that time, but it still has to be read and come up for, there has to be discussion
Actually, all
on
it
the floor.
has to be, it has to be read,
Right.
and then there's a motion and a second, or it has to be read, and then someone comes up and tables it, end of discussion. It's over.
It's not the way Bonnie described it to me, but however it
that's-
works.
Yeah.
So my only suggestion would be that because, as Tony said, you know, there are people who have read it and have questions about it and whatever, because the other one is yours and you guys are the ones that are gonna be talking about it, you know, I have no problem with you, you know, trying to figure out how the words I'm trying to, that I want to use, you know, talking that we met, and there is another warrant article, but, you know, that's gonna come up for discussion, but to not consider, you know, that one, or however it needs to be worded, whatever, so that because people may
I think
try
you
and
just
talk
make
about
a
both of
motion-
them at the same
You just
time.
make a motion to table it.
But it comes but it comes after.
That's fine, just
Right,
make a
which is
motion to
fine.
table it.
So, all right. Can we get the select board to agree to fund the program for $4,800 this year?
So that's an increase. So
Are you asking for an increase, or are you asking for 4,800 to be slotted out of the existing fund?
he's asking for 4,800 out of the existing
To be
fund,
held
rather
for-
than giving 4 of the 10, giving them 48 of the 10. So,
Without knowing the process of how how the fund is I'm not comfortable with.
yeah, I don't,
saying
10,000 passes, you got more than 4,800
Right.
right there.
no,
No.
no.
We
no.
don't.
The 10,
We still get zero.
some of it goes to them and some of it goes to build up the kitty, right? So
Okay.
they only get like, you know, half.
I guess it
whatever.
saves,
Yeah,
Whatever you guys decide.
5,000 builds up the kitty, the other 5 covers the 4,800.
yeah. Yeah,
Well, I mean, that's what I'm asking. Can I get a commitment from the board to say that they will fund $4,800 to the Lake Coast program for 2018?
assuming that the warrant article passes.
Assuming that Article whatever, number 13 or whatever it is, passes.
So what that represents is an $800 increase over what we would have done last year.
I guess I don't see it as like an increase or a decrease, it's what has been requested, right?
No.
Towards that fund, to come out of that fund,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And if we have documentation as far as how that 4,800 was used and stuff, then it's,
So what John is looking for is if they come back and they request 4,800, he's looking for us, and I'm not saying we're saying this, but he's looking for us to say, yes, absolutely, we'll do that. Which I think is kind of not fair to put us on the spot to ask for that tonight,
Then I guess we need to pursue going forward with our warrant article.
but you know in good faith that this town and this board supports that
But
program.
if I can't get you guys here to be willing to commit to an $800 increase, then, I mean, it's already on the warrant, so we might as well just pursue it.
That would have been a conversation, like, during the budget cycle, during the development cycle, and in front of the budget
We're
committee,
having a session.
not at the 11th hour before voting day.
I don't see the relevance.
Well, you might have had.
Well, that's the
You know, you ended up with a warrant article that doesn't have, you know, the budget committee's endorsement of it or the select board's endorsement of it.
Actually, it does have the budget committee's
Well,
endorsement.
yes, but there was a lot of indecisiveness on that.
I guess I really feel like the only thing that we're asking for is a verbal level of commitment, whether there's a dollar sign or not on it, is, you know, let's find a way to, over the next couple of months, because honestly, it's gonna come up quick, find a way to come up with a process, this is what's gonna happen, this is how it's gonna work, and when these steps are met, then money will be,
You have our commitment to that. You have our commitment to that.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, as Tony said, we can sit and talk through.
And our commitment to work together to make sure the process doesn't break again.
We can easily solve the cash flow stuff. The last time we talked about this publicly, and this time I would have to publicly quibble with your recounting of why what happened did happen, but it's not worth going through all that at this point. I just have to remind the board that you had concerns about the cash balance that was, there were structural questions that they're not questions of anybody's decency or how they were handling the program. It was just stuff that needed answers, and we didn't have time to answer them
Well, then let's get
in
together and talk
September.
about
So
them
I
and
think,
answer them.
yeah, that can be done with I think if you were to present a budget to the board that said, this is what we anticipate our expenses to be, this is what we anticipate our revenues to be, this is what the grant is, this is what the Lake Association's putting in, this is what's different from last year, this is the timing of what we need when.
A timeline with
That's-
key milestones and deadlines.
That, we can do that before the season starts.
Yeah,
That's
so
all
can I
doable.
suggest that we put some time on one of our meetings, calendars after town meeting, obviously,
Yeah,
but
that's-
soon enough to
Schedule them in.
support, you know, the timeline that
That's
they're
easy.
for getting the
It's all
program.
easy. If you already have all your information,
Yeah, because I
It's
don't
really
know,
easy
you
to
have to
flush
do
out
that
the
in
open
order to write the
questions.
grant. So yeah, all that, and, you know, the grant paperwork and everything else like that, you know, has all of that information on it, so, you know, that's certainly, you know, easy enough to do. The one challenge is that the money has to be there before you can spend it, so it's not like, okay, these are the things that we expended on, and now the money's gonna get put back, it's kind of done in
I
reverse.
think the question last
So-
year was more around how much money was gonna be left over and whether that money was gonna be in the hands of New Hampshire Lakes. And the question was, if there's money left over, or money, you know, is it better
The
to have?
rollover balance.
Yeah, if there's,
Yeah.
is it better to have money sitting with New Hampshire Lakes or in this fund, right? So that we have control, or we have control over the money rather than having it sitting unused with New Hampshire Lakes. That was the question last year. So, I mean,
all solvable in April.
exactly.
Procedurally, it's painless. If you're willing to front the money before it's spent, which I think you probably are at this
We
scale,
always have.
then this is procedurally very easy.
Yeah, the one thing that's different for us is that because it is a fund, right, then we need to be able to have an accounting of that in case someone comes back and asks us.
Oh, well, that's certainly easy enough, because I mean, it's in the reports, the weekly,
Yeah.
payroll summaries.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
couldn't come up with the word. And they're actually reworking that because because those numbers are confusing, so,
Yeah.
you know, that's certainly easy enough to, you know, I mean, we share them with the PLAA board, so, you know, that's not a problem at all.
All right,
Why don't we, April 9th is it's not your first meeting after you are a new board when you have officer elections and all that stuff, but it's the one immediately following that? April 9th?
well, and I think I'm out of town, and I'd like to be here, so,
April 23rd?
yeah.
We're out of
Actually, we're
town.
out of town that week.
23rd?
The 23rd, we're out of town.
All right, well, let's move it back. We'll do it, we don't want to be screwing around May, we'll do it right on the 12th.
Fine.
Can you be ready by the 12th? With
Of what day?
the
Of
12th?
what month?
Wait a minute, 26th of
I'm like,
March.
what?
Sorry,
Not-
12th is
A
today.
non-Monday?
26th of March,
That's
2 weeks from tonight.
that's 2 weeks from tonight.
I'll-
Oh, sorry, March.
I'll leave it to you
March.
guys. I'm
2
away
weeks from
both of those
tonight?
times, Chris.
Okay, so that doesn't work.
I'll leave, you know, we don't wanna push it to May 1st.
No,
So you go ahead and
all right, so
go
skip
with
you.
these guys, yeah.
So I'm fine with March 26th.
'Cause we
March
need to-
26th or
we need
April
to
9th?
Start getting some funds there
Yeah, yeah.
as quick as possible.
26th or or the
Yes.
9th of April, which do you prefer?
The 26th gonna be our first meeting as a new board.
Yes.
It should probably be the.
Let's do,
It should be the next one.
Okay.
Yeah.
9th?
that's the 9th. Yeah.
Okay. And I will work with you ahead of time to get you stuff ahead of that meeting, so that if you have questions, we can hopefully put it all to bed that night.
Right, and
Okay.
So
whatever,
if you give me some lead
and
time,
whatever
we
you
can.
need from us.
Yeah, just let me know what you
Give us
want.
lead time of what you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Donna, because you know the program well enough, if you have specific information that you think that would be good for these guys to know and have and whatever, and you have time to just shoot me an email, I can pull it together and everything else, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so fortunately, we start out the year with funds because of the grant. So it's not like it's an immediate thing, it's usually, and
I thought we had to submit some at the beginning
oh yeah, the
anyway.
grant now says you have to send all the money up front, but I was promised that that wasn't, they weren't gonna make us
They
do
used to
it.
say
but we
that a
need-
lot, but
right,
we
but-
would, we would tell them that it was subject to the town,
Yeah,
you know, so.
Right, but they've been making us at least send some.
yeah, so, and we won't know what the grant, the decision of the grant is, because that goes before the governor's council, after the 22nd of April, so. All right, well, thank you
Okay.
guys, appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Any other,
Right.
no more questions?
Yeah. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. And if,
Tomorrow.
if not on Saturday.
All right, what do you want to do next? Want to do our schedule?
Yeah, we need to do our schedule.
All right,
I guess maybe start with Tyler, what his feeling is.
yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna put it out there that, you know, based on,
I mean, I'm willing to, I mean, come and, you know, do whatever I can. I just don't wanna be part of, you know, I mean, like, we did the counting.
You can't be part
Oh,
of
I
the
know.
counting
I
by
know.
law,
We
yeah,
did.
so, once it closes, you have to be on the other side of
But
the.
any other thing, I'm available all day to do whatever.
okay,
And the same here, I took the day off with the expectation of being
Thinking
here.
about offering to go get people, bring them up here, but I don't know.
so personally, everything I've read and everything I've, you know, seen, I do not believe for this election that we are required to have a quorum.
Really, because that's not the way I read it.
Because it
When
says,
I went back and reread
it
it.
says state in general, right?
Yeah, but then,
Yeah, there's a tag-on sentence that makes this like, you know, follow everything for this as you would for the state.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's also fair to ask yourselves, what are the consequences of different interpretations of that, and I think.
Last year, at this election, when I looked at,
Somebody wanted
the
to
other
press
thing
it.
is we can be kind of on call if,
Tough case.
yes,
so some of my concern is that maybe some of the election folks won't show up just because of the snow, so someone maybe that signed up for a ballot clerk or something like that, and they're older, and,
Right.
you know, I'm
Won't or
concerned,
can't, yeah.
yeah.
you know, for, you know, some of those folks, so we might have to step in, and I think that they were still shorthanded.
Really?
The last email that they were still shorthanded, I think they didn't have a night shift for,
Well, I'm not sure, I think they said we're not gonna do a checkout table, which is optional at best, and then they said.
that
oh,
they
yeah.
don't need it all during this election.
They're still scheduled to have it. So there's all that manpower
Wasted.
That they don't
at their
need it all.
disposal. That's still on the books and still in the schedule.
Yeah,
That was where it was left, last I heard this afternoon. So. I think the busiest time of day is gonna be 8 to 8:10.
I do too.
And,
It's gonna be in the morning
At
and
least
then-
between the at least up until 10 o'clock, and then it's gonna drop right off.
I mean, there's not gonna be any.
I can
school.
be here in the morning, I'm not gonna say I'll be here before 8 o'clock in the morning, I got some things I have to do in the morning. Make sure a couple people aren't snowed in, I got a couple driveways to plow. But I can get here by 8,
I can be here for door opening.
that's
I'm
8.
not going back to Dartmouth until Wednesday, so
Okay.
I can be here as late as need be too.
What are you thinking?
Oh, well, I was thinking I could do counting if need be, so I could do
Well-
the later shift,
That's kind of what I was just thinking too.
because you're not gonna be able to, so, and if you wanna work the day shift, maybe you guys work the day shift and
We come in later.
we come in later, and if you wanna hang the whole day, then we've got all that
We're
covered.
covered.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm not gonna be in and out a couple of times during that
I
period
think you
either.
have to be just to get out there and
Yeah, like
take care
I'll
of
have to
all
go
of
home
them.
at some point to let the dogs out and feed them and then come back here.
Yeah.
It's doable.
Nobody's
Yeah.
gonna miss you if you're not there for
There isn't
half
gonna
an
be
hour.
anybody here, and the counting's gonna go really fast, because there's not gonna be that many.
Well, this election though, you do get write-ins, a lot of write-ins.
I wonder if it was a good turnout today, though, for the absentee.
You know, I didn't see the mob that I expected to. I wasn't watching it that closely,
The,
but.
the reasons that you can fill out an absentee are so narrow that you couldn't show up and fill out one today just because you're afraid of the
Yeah,
snow
yeah,
tomorrow.
no, yeah.
So, that shouldn't have changed at all.
Yeah, that really shouldn't have changed, but, I mean, I think it's gonna be a low turnout. There's nothing controversial on the school side.
Yeah, other than a $1 million
The
budget.
elections are all unopposed, right? I don't think that there's any
There's a-
contested race
Contested race for school board.
for school board there is,
Yeah.
Everything else is uncontested.
so probably,
Okay, so you guys will do morning and day, and then Charlene and I will come in.
Yeah, if Charlie's gonna go plow with us, so be it, we'll cover, I mean, we'll make do. Unless she reports us to the,
So, what I was gonna say is, the moderator has a checklist, right, from the state.
What's that?
The moderator has a list that the state uses when they come around to, you know, they'll come and do an inspection and make sure that everything's in line, right? For this election last year, they have all this section that's all required, right? Underneath, not part of the required section, was quorum of selectmen. Now, for the presidential election, that was different. Quorum was in the required box, but for this election, it was not, if you look at the sheet.
really.
Yep, and I looked for the sheet for this year and I couldn't find it, but that's exactly how it was last
Yeah,
year.
did you read the procedure manual there for this, the most updated one? I think you had sent the 2009-10, but I
I read
found the
16, 17. Yeah, I
Yeah,
read it.
16-17, I mean.
Yeah.
The thing is it never says quorum, it just says selectmen, and then in one of the RSAs, it just says select man, and I'm like, well. you know,
Tony,
That's the man.
he the man. All right,
You and I
so,
don't even have to.
I know, right? All right,
let's get that snowmobile fired up.
seriously.
Yeah, they have to ride it here.
All right, so you guys will come in the morning, do what you can.
Yep.
On and off during the day. Charlene and I will come in later and do cover county.
Yeah.
Okay,
Make it work.
all right,
Yeah.
all right. Tax deeding?
Yes, so you got a memo from me. This is a lot like it's been in years past, just on a slightly different calendar. Are you comfortable with the process? You all feel like you know what we're doing here? Do you need any background on any of that stuff? Is it, did I run through anything?
No, I mean, most of these are, we've discussed in the past.
Yeah, we haven't, as a body, as the full five of you, discussed that general criteria of owner-occupied residences. You generally don't take, because they're as much a liability for us as as they are.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I've been through this before, so.
That's been the, one of the guideposts for, I think, a long time.
Yes. Here's if you put somebody out of the house, then you're responsible for them.
You're either their landlord or their welfare officer, and they're out of their house, so. That has been one of the guideposts that has been used as long as I've been here and before then. Doesn't make it sacred, it's a choice you're making. There are towns that just deed everything that's eligible to be deeded the moment it's eligible to be deeded. They evict whoever's in there and sell the house as soon as possible. That is the, one end of the pendulum. That is an option open to you, I'm not suggesting it, but it does, that is the breadth of your authority there. There are a few that have growing,
Yeah, that's concerning.
healthy balances, and we don't need to talk in public context about those if you don't want to, but I have had conversations or communications with all of the large dollar ones. So there's no question of somebody's not aware of this being an obligation that they have. And there's nobody that's either ignoring it or contesting it or has no intention of paying it amongst those handful that are on the larger side dollar-wise.
So how do we
These
make,
names I've been seeing for years,
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure.
same thing every year. Some
so
of them
how do we make
surprised
the
at.
town whole if there's somebody that knows we won't put them out and they consistently refuse to pay year after year?
so eventually, when you believe that there isn't enough equity left to protect you in the property, you probably will make a decision to take somebody's home and evict them and sell the house. When, just like we did with USA Springs, when the cost of the tax bill is greater than the value of the land, it was time
Right.
to go, right? And that is the last point. Anytime a home with a lien like this sells on it, the town gets paid first. So the home will not change hands without the town being made whole. So it's at the point of sale where you often get made whole. What you see a lot of folks do in this situation is remortgage the house to pay the taxes. So they will take on a new mortgage, and as part of that mortgage closing, the town will get a check and be made whole, and this lien goes away. So those are typically how they happen. Or something changes in the family or the person's life or whatever, and they become able to come in and just pay the taxes. That's actually more of them happen that way than.
And some of them that are familiar with the process will have relatives come and stay at the house, so that's occupied. They don't actually live there, but they spend enough time there to say, oh, the house is occupied, we don't want to put them out. It's not like you're putting out a family, it's usually an individual.
Of those big dollar ones, we don't have any of those situations right now. Some of the smaller dollar ones we might, but, so that's how you can be not too aggressive and not feel like you're leaving money on the table. These are now accruing at a rate of 18%, these lien debts. So these owners have a very strong incentive to get this dealt with. Whatever they could remortgage for is a heck of a lot less than the 18% that they're paying us.
Right.
And that law is actually probably gonna change. I think that amount's gonna come down, but it's still gonna be.
If that state law changes, will it be retroactive or just from the time it goes into effect?
I think it's written to just when it goes into effect.
Okay. So
That
the
would seem to be
18% up
too
to
messy.
this point is still be good.
Yeah.
But then they're gonna try to drop it down, I forget what
I think it's down to 12 or
Well, yeah.
something like that, but,
18 is crazy, but that's the law, so,
yeah, and that comes from the legislature not wanting the towns to be banks.
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't wanna be in the lending business, and that's what this is trying
We've had
to
some
prevent.
people over the years that do a great job, and they just pay so much a month trying to catch up, and with 18%, they can't get ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't.
So those are, and the way you look at it this year, now that USA Springs is gone, our total amount is actually quite low. If you carve out those owner-occupied homes from the list, that we have historically looked at seasonal properties and vacant properties a little differently. You're not putting anybody out, so in running through what we have, there's nothing new on this list really since the last time the board saw this. This is very similar to last year's. Let me just look at the highlights. There are a couple of, there's one seasonal property that's, that has been on the list for some time, but actually the amount owed is significantly less than the last time you saw it. There has been some motion on it. There's one family that has people that own both a camp and some vacant land across the street. Both of those, there's been some activity recently to get closer to caught up. Those are the types of things where in the past I have come to you and suggested that you tax deed those because there's nobody living in them and we need to, we need to move on it while they're vacant. In that case, where there has been significant recent progress, I think we'll get caught up. It looks pretty good there. There are a couple that are just too sticky legally for us. Both have been on this list for a while. Vacant parcels, one of them that may or may not exist in reality. It's there on the maps, but to go find it would be pretty tricky. We don't want to own it just for the legal consequences of owning it. There's another one at Cedar Waters where we don't honestly know what's there. You don't want to take something where you can't, you can't inspect it. You can't, you don't know what you'd be taking. If it's there, we can't see.
If you take it, most of them are like a camp or a trailer. We take that, then we're liable to pay the lot rent on it.
Right.
Yeah, and if it's full of
The ones that are over there,
if it's
not worth
full of,
anything.
it's full of boxes of asbestos shingles or something, who knows, we don't want any part of that, so. Yeah, so there's two tiny ones that are just straight up vacant house lots, that, you may wanna think differently on. It's a small amount outstanding. Those are, map 5, lot 2, 2931. It's only $700 on each one. It's vacant land, so I pulled it out and showed it to you, but, and if you did tax deed them, you would get some penalty money back in the process of giving it back, the owner buying it back. You'd probably pay me $700 a time to just chase the stuff around, but in principle, if you are of the mind that we should take it, then we can treat those differently. And I can answer any questions on them that aren't in the memo. But this is the first time I think I've recommended that you waive everything on the list. It's a shorter list than it has been.
Does anybody have any questions, or do you want to move forward with the motion?
I think we can move it.
The motion is written on the second.
I'll make a motion that, move that the select board waive the deeds and notify the tax collector that they will not accept the tax collector's deeds on the following properties pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 80:38, map 1, lot 1, map 1, lot 2, map 1, lot 3, map 1, lot 12, map 1, lot 13, map 5, lot 2, sub 29, map 5, lot 2, sub 31, map 8, lot 13, map 12, lot 9, sub 1, map 16, lot 18, sub 3, map 20, lot 8, sub 1, map 23, lot 2, sub 100, map 24, 103, map 24, lot 141, sub 2, map 39, lot 24, map 46, lot 6.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
So there's a document for each of those that we'll need you to sign. I think we'll have those for you tomorrow while you're here.
Okay.
Have you do that.
One sheet per property.
Yeah, they get recorded or something. I don't remember the process, but.
So Chris also, just back in the elections, Chris also gave us talking points for the things that we're putting forward at town meeting.
Yeah, that's intended to just be a starting point for you, and if you have other things you need to fill in there, let me know. I can help you with it if you need it. I think we sent you that in Word format, so you can edit it and play with it as you wish.
And anybody who wants to spend time chatting with Chris tomorrow on any of these, that would be a good use of time since he won't be doing anything else.
Yeah, and,
Shoveling.
so I was thinking about the road one, and we didn't talk to Bonnie about PowerPoint presentations, so please, we won't do that. So on the Ledge Farm, because I'm gonna speak to the Ledge Farm road one, my thinking is we're not here to discuss whether it's getting paved or not getting paved. We're here, it's gonna get paved. We're here to discuss whether we take a bond to do the work or we not take a bond to do the work.
Right, because that's the essence of the article.
Where does the 650 come from?
Yeah, if the bond fails, no means no, we can't pave it this year. Right, so there's no
Right,
money
so
there.
it gets put off.
It gets put
Yes,
off.
But it's not, we're not here to discuss whether it gets paved or whether it stays dirt.
Right, the plan is to pave. It's,
not
the
this
question
year.
is how to pay for it.
No, well, if the bond fails, we don't do it this year.
Right, but, yeah, we're just saying that the purpose of the warrant article is to determine whether or not we take the bond.
So I would word it as, not that it's going to get paid, but it will be discussed again in the next budget cycle. Right? Because we would have to budget for it next year.
Right.
So that's the way I would position it.
I think Bonnie would do well to do similar to what you did at the public hearing and say, this is not a forum on town roads in general, this is specific to the bond in question.
Yeah, and when I
we-
don't want to have us go down this road that, oh, well, we should just do this and it should stay dirt, because that's not what it's about.
Exactly.
It's about we're going to pave it,
But you gotta be careful with that.
Chances are, we can't get a bond in time to do it in a timely fashion, is that correct? You know, how soon is it?
No, we can, I think, that part doesn't worry me. The part that worries me is that in order to pave it, you're gonna have to get an appropriation some way, someday.
right,
So,
right,
But not this year, that's why I'm saying it
If-
will be revisited in the next budget cycle.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Really? Okay.
yeah, if the bond,
We could get a lot of the road construction done, but not necessarily the paving. Is that what you're think what
if the bond fails,
Right,
you can't go find other money and do the same work,
correct,
right?
yes.
You could next year. If you go find the money next year and you get an appropriation for it, then you can do it next year. But in terms of reconstructing Ledge Farm, if the bond fails, you really can't do that because
Right.
no means no. Regardless of if it's a one-time appropriation or a bond to pay for it, the purpose has been voted down. So if the bond fails, we're not gonna be
do it.
doing major, we can maintain the road, we can, fix potholes and stuff like that. But we can't reconstruct and pave Ledge Farm if the bond fails this year.
Right,
But if it passes, we can go ahead and do it.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
That-
we
that- I
will
was
get the
confused
loan
on
cooked and all that, and the bids done
because
on it
we've
this
got
year.
we've got the other 200,000 for Cooper Hill.
Right,
So we can't take that 200,000, say, okay, we're gonna
Spend it
do
on Ledge
Ledge
Farm.
Farm, got it.
right,
It just puts it on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
yeah, so I think the voters are looking at this as a question of do we pave it or not? And the bond is a secondary question. I
Right,
think that's how your average voter is looking at it, I don't know, but
No, the average voter is looking at it as, are we going to pave all of the dirt roads in town?
that may be,
Yeah, that's,
Maybe more
that's not what the article means.
No, and it's gonna come up during the budget
It will.
review.
It will.
So Michigan has to be prepared too.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, burst your bubble there, but,
Okay. No, well, I'm just trying to think of, you know, because if we get into this long discussion about should we pave it, should we not pave it, well,
That question's moot.
No, it's not.
Well, I mean, like I said, the purpose of this warrant article is to bond that reconstruction and paving.
No, what we just said was it's to pave or not to pave, using the bond is the vehicle to pay for it, right?
yeah, for this year's spending, the only way it happens is if the bond passes.
So there, legitimate part of the art, it's not do we bond or not bond, there has to be a lot of discussion around do we pave or not pave.
I suspect the voters will wanna have that discussion, yes. You have to get over two hurdles. You have to get over the hurdle of do you wanna pave it, and do you wanna borrow to do it?
Right.
That's really what the voters being, in a sense, has to do. We may face a different question next year of just do you wanna pave some of it?
Right.
Right, but the number that's in the warrant article, we got from getting estimates for reconstructing and paving it.
Right, so if it's a go, it's the whole thing this year.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But next year, what could happen, so say it didn't pass, next year we could say, okay, that 200,000 goes to pave X amount of feet of Ledge Farm Road. And we're gonna do that again, and we're gonna do that, and all
Yeah.
those other
Yeah.
roads that we wanted to fix are not gonna get fixed, and they're gonna just get pushed further down the road.
Where the conversation has to be focused is when people, well, maybe not, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of discussion about road dust and the implications of the impact of road dust, right? So,
And then other roads are gonna come up, I
And other roads are
guarantee
gonna
it,
come up,
and
yeah.
that's where the line's gotta be drawn, because
Yeah.
nothing in that article has anything to do with any other road in town. So,
Yeah, and just so you're all, we're all on the same page, the language of the article is Ledge Farm Road or other roads as priorities arise.
Right.
Right? I think you can be comfortable saying our intention is to do this and we don't have something else in mind, but if there are crazy unforeseen circumstances, or if we want to do something, let's say on one of the intersections of Ledge Farm, there are side roads where maybe we want to leak over and do something in a, you know, that's technically on a budding road for 10 feet.
Right.
Or whatever, you need a little bit of latitude that you can not have to worry about that stuff. Or if, you know, there's a tornado or something, you know.
Yeah.
But, that's the intent of that.
Right.
It's not to, and I think you can tell the voters, we're not gonna switch the road on you, we're, you know, this
Right.
is the project and we're, you know, we're not, this isn't a shell game, this is the project.
Yep. Gonna be fun. Most wonderful week of the year.
For whom exactly?
What month are you taking off this summer?
No, I used up that shit, I'm afraid.
Okay, are we all good? One more thing, so, is this your last meeting, Charlie?
Pardon me?
Is this your last meeting?
Yes.
Doesn't he do Saturday?
Oh, I'll be there Saturday.
He's
I
not
told him
sitting
I'm not
at the
gonna sit at the
table
head
with us.
table, but I'm gonna be in a peanut gallery.
He doesn't like us
He's
anymore.
gonna be throwing, he's gonna be doing
I'm telling you,
spitballs at
I'm the
us.
only member of this board that has been to every meeting since I was elected this year. So I learned to that's my get out of jail free card.
You've been keeping track.
Fair enough, fair enough. No, I just wanted to say thank you, Charlie,
Yeah.
for coming and being on this board this year. I really enjoyed and appreciated having you here.
Thank
very
you.
much.
I appreciate
And
that too.
I'm disappointed that you're not going to be coming back.
It's been a good experience and, but I've actually had enough. I need to let go.
I understand. I understand.
Thing is, I've had such a structured life with every job I've had, and then when I worked here, and since my wife and I both retired, it's it took me a couple of years to get grounded a little bit, but
Yeah.
I'm still fluttering around out there.
Yeah.
I flooded in here and I gotta go, I've had enough.
I appreciated
I've
it.
had, like I said,
Just
I've enjoyed working with the board, and I've had good response from just people in town that that I run into occasionally, and
Good, well, thank you.
so,
Yeah,
thank you for your.
We appreciate you being on the board.
And Tyler, good luck.
Yeah,
maybe we'll see you back here.
Unless Charlie
Either
beats him on
way,
the writing.
yeah. I'm thinking about writing them in myself.
All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I think Charlie
So
should.
move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Charlene seconded it, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, stay safe.